Let me tell you something today. Just because you're walking alone doesn't mean you're walking wrong. In fact, sometimes the most powerful move God will make in your life is to clear the room so He can teach you how to stand without support. You've got to understand this today. Just because you're by yourself doesn't mean you've been forsaken. Just because you're walking a lonely road doesn't mean you've taken a wrong turn. And just because you feel the silence pressing in doesn't mean that God has gone silent on your life. No, my friend, sometimes isolation is not a sign of punishment, it is a sign of preparation. What you call loneliness, God calls leadership development. Let me make this plain. When God is about to do something big in your life, when He is about to elevate you beyond the reach of mediocrity, the first thing He often does is pull you back. He takes you out of the crowd. He cuts the noise. He isolates you, not to abandon you, but to develop what the crowd could never understand. God will hide you to heal you. He'll separate you to strengthen you, because what He's putting inside of you is not meant for public preview, it's being built in a private place. Think of Joseph. The coat of many colors didn't bring him promotion, it brought him a pit. But the pit was not the end of his story. The pit was a hallway, and in that pit, Joseph was separated from his brothers, misunderstood by his own blood, and dropped into a dark, lonely place. But here's the thing, God didn't leave him there. In fact, the pit was the beginning of the palace journey. That separation was a signal that destiny had begun its process. Too often, we associate crowds with validation. We think, if I'm surrounded by people, I must be doing something right. But can I tell you something? Crowds can camouflage you. Crowds can confuse you. Crowds can consume your identity until you forget who you are. That's why God sometimes has to pull you out before He can push you forward. You can't hear the whisper of heaven if the volume of the world is turned all the way up. God doesn't shout above your distractions, He waits until you're still. That's why the Bible says, "Be still and know that I am God." There are some truths about your purpose, your power, and your calling that you will never discover in the crowd. You've got to step away to step into them. Sometimes God quiets your environment so He can upgrade your internal world. But it's uncomfortable, isn't it? We don't like isolation. It feels like rejection. It feels like being forgotten. You call and they don't answer. You text and they leave you on read. Doors close that you thought would open. People you trusted turn their backs. But hear me. Isolation is often divine insulation. God is not letting you be rejected. He's protecting you from premature exposure. Imagine a seed. Before it becomes a tree, it's buried alone in the dark under the dirt. Nobody claps for it. Nobody sees it. It doesn't look like anything special, but give it time. That dark place is working. That soil is pressing. That pressure is shaping. And eventually, what was buried will break through. Not because it had a cheering squad, but because it had roots. Deep roots. Strong roots. Roots that were only made possible by isolation. Some of your greatest growth will come in your loneliest seasons. And it's in those seasons that God isn't subtracting from you, He's adding to you. He's stripping away what can't go with you into your next level. He's detoxing your mind from the opinions of people. He's sharpening your discernment so you can recognize truth when you hear it. He's building your prayer life because in the silence you learn to seek Him like never before. There's something sacred about a season where it's just you and God. That's where the oil flows. That's where the vision gets clear. That's where the pain becomes purpose and the wounds become wisdom. You stop seeking applause and start seeking alignment. You stop asking, "Why am I alone?" And you start declaring, "God, show me what I need to learn in this place." Don't rush the process. Don't resent the silence. Don't despise the separation. What you call isolation might be the greatest investment God is making in you. He's not taking something from you. He's making something inside of you. Something durable. Something unshakable. Something that doesn't depend on likes, follows, or applause. And when it's time, when the season shifts, God will reintroduce you, not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to be. Stronger, wiser, focused, healed, refined, and ready for the weight of the blessing, ready for the doors that couldn't open until you were whole, ready for the stage that requires the strength only solitude could build. So hold your head up. Don't misinterpret your season. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. You're not being rejected, you're being refined. You're not alone, you're in training, because isolation is not rejection. It is divine preparation for elevation. Let me talk to you today about something most people don't see. Because we live in a world that celebrates what's visible, what's loud, what's public, what's praised, the platform, the performance, the post. But there's another dimension to greatness that's not always glamorous. And if you don't understand it, you'll think something's wrong with you because your life doesn't look like someone else's highlight reel. Let me tell you something vital. The strongest roots grow in solitude. You don't grow strong just because people clap for you. You don't grow deep because of applause. You grow because you've been pressed, because you've had to endure. Because you've been through seasons where there was no hand to hold, no voice cheering you on, no crowd calling your name, just God and grit, just tears and truth, just pain and prayer. The greatest strength is often developed in hidden places, not in the spotlight, in the soil, and soil doesn't look like glory. Soil is dirty, it's dark, it's heavy, but it's necessary. The seed doesn't blossom on the surface. It breaks down and fights through layers of earth all by itself. The process is messy, it's lonely, but it's designed to give the seed something nothing else can: depth. You see, when a tree stands alone, it doesn't have the luxury of leaning on another for stability. It has to go deeper to survive. Its roots dig farther into the ground because the wind has no mercy on the isolated. When storms come, and they will come, the tree that grew with shallow roots may look beautiful on the outside, but it will snap under pressure. But the one that grew alone, that had to fight for every inch of stability, that tree will still be standing when the sky clears. That's why God allows certain seasons of solitude in your life. It's not to hurt you, it's to root you. God knows what's ahead. He knows the storm that's coming. And he says, before I bless you, I need to build you. Before I elevate you, I need to anchor you. Because if your roots aren't deep enough, your gift will take you places your character can't sustain. This is why people who skip the process crash when pressure hits. They looked the part. They had the suit, the speech, the swagger. But when life got real, when the wind blew, when the economy shifted, when the betrayal came, when the door slammed, they fell. Not because they were weak in public, but because they were shallow in private. Depth is developed in solitude. God's not ignoring you. He's investing in you. He's taking you deeper. You've been asking for influence, for elevation, for doors to open. But those things don't come before depth. They come after it. And if you get them too soon, they'll become your destruction, not your destiny. Think of Jesus. Before he ever stepped onto the public stage, before the water was turned into wine, before the Sermon on the Mount, before the miracles and multitudes, he was in the wilderness, alone, 40 days, no crowd, no miracles, just temptation, testing, and trust. The Spirit led him there not to abandon him, but to prepare him. The same is true for you. You're not in a dry season because God forgot you. You're in a dry season because he's teaching you how to draw water from within. When no one's validating you, he's teaching you to stand on what he said, not on what people see. When nothing makes sense, he's building a faith that doesn't flinch when the world shakes. And here's the thing, when your roots are deep, you don't have to chase storms, you can survive them. You don't have to beg for opportunities, they'll come find you. Because deep roots bring stability, consistency, and longevity. The blessing doesn't just come to the talented, it comes to the planted. To the ones who stayed, who dug deep, who kept showing up even when no one noticed. It's easy to admire fruit, but it's the root system that keeps the tree alive. No one sees it, but without it, the tree can't stand. And in your life, it's the private battles, the silent prayers, the lonely nights, the hidden sacrifices that's what's building your root system. That's what's giving you the power to carry what God is preparing to give you. So, if you're in a season right now where it feels like nobody sees you, nobody gets you, nobody's coming to rescue you, know this. God is growing something in you that will not be shaken. Don't despise your solitude. Don't curse your season of quiet, because you are being rooted for something greater. And when the time is right, when your roots are strong enough to support the weight of the blessing, God will cause the fruit to show. And when it shows, it will not just be for you. Your branches will shade others. Your fruit will feed nations. Your stability will inspire generations. But first you've got to grow deep, so let them talk. Let them move on. Let the spotlight pass you by. It's okay. You're not behind, you're becoming. You're not weak, you're rooting. You're not forgotten, you're being fortified. Because the strongest roots, the kind that survive every storm, outlast every drought, and support the greatest harvest, those roots grow in solitude. You cannot blend in and stand out at the same time. You were not created to fit the mold, you were crafted to break it. You were not born to be a copy, you were designed to be a revelation. And the reason you feel tension, the reason you feel pulled in a direction different from everybody else, is because there's something about your life that demands distinction. Destiny does not come to those who blend in. It does not come to those who live by consensus. It comes to those who are willing to walk alone, who are willing to be misunderstood, who are willing to be different, not because they're trying to be rebellious, but because they're trying to be real. You see, distinction isn't arrogance, it's assignment. When God marks you for something, He often sets you apart from the crowd. That's why you didn't fit in. That's why they left you out. That's why you were always the one who thought differently, who prayed differently, who hurt differently. Because what's on your life is not ordinary, and God won't let you settle for ordinary when He's put extraordinary inside of you. Look through the pages of Scripture and you'll see a pattern. Abraham had to leave his father's house before he could walk into promise. Joseph had to be set apart, lied on, sold, imprisoned before he could stand in power. Esther had to hide her identity before she could reveal her destiny. Even Jesus had to be separated from his disciples to fulfill his purpose on the cross. Distinction is not easy, but it's essential. Some of you are frustrated right now because you don't understand why the doors they walk through don't open for you. Why what works for others doesn't work for you. Why you can't follow the crowd and feel at peace. But hear me, that's not rejection, that's revelation. God is revealing to you that you were never meant to be part of the crowd. Your path is different. Your pace is different. Your process is different because your purpose is different. It's hard, isn't it, when you're walking one way and everyone else is going the other, when your decisions make you look strange, when your values make you look outdated, when your vision sets you apart from the people you love. But you have to make up your mind. Do I want comfort or do I want calling? Because the crowd will always offer you comfort, comfort in numbers, comfort in familiarity, comfort in sameness. But destiny calls you to distinction. It calls you to step outside the boat like Peter and walk where others are afraid to tread. It calls you to refuse compromise like Daniel and stand firm even when the furnace is hot. It calls you to keep building like Noah, even when no one sees the storm but you. That's what makes you different. That's what makes you chosen. That's what makes you necessary in a world addicted to imitation, your authenticity, your uniqueness, your boldness to be what God created, not what people prefer. But let me be real with you. Distinction is lonely. It's not always celebrated. It doesn't always come with confirmation. Sometimes it feels like walking blindfolded with nothing but faith and obedience. Sometimes it means being silent when you want to speak. Sometimes it means standing when you want to sit. But distinction always brings demonstration, because when God marks you, he makes you undeniable. The problem is, many people forfeit their destiny trying to maintain their comfort. They water down their fire, they shrink their calling, they lower their standard just to be accepted. But acceptance without authenticity is prison in disguise. You can be surrounded by people and still be dying inside if you have to suppress what God placed in you to fit in. Don't do it. Don't bury your brilliance just to be tolerated. Don't trade your oil for approval. Don't let the desire to be liked rob you of the power to be impactful, because you were made for more. You were born for something bigger, and everything that makes you different is the very thing God wants to use. You don't need a crowd to confirm your calling. You need the courage to be different, to walk away from what's popular and walk into what's purposeful. To understand that God doesn't bless who you pretend to be, he blesses who he designed you to be. And when you finally embrace that distinction, when you finally say, "Yes, Lord, I'll walk the narrow road," you'll discover that the same people who misunderstood you will marvel at what God does through you. Because when destiny manifests, it always silences the doubters. So stop apologizing for your difference. Stop dimming your light to match the room. Stop comparing your path to people who were never called to go where you're going. There is something about you, something divine, something precious, something peculiar that God is going to use to shake systems and shift generations. Don't dilute it. Don't discard it. Don't delay it, because destiny requires distinction. Sometimes it takes the absence of voices to finally hear the voice that matters. Sometimes it takes silence to reveal direction. Sometimes it takes walking alone for your vision to become clear. Because when you are surrounded by noise, by opinions, by distractions, by comparison, your vision gets blurred. But when God pulls you into a season of isolation, it's not punishment, it's to sharpen your eyes. Not your natural eyes, but your spiritual eyes, your ability to see beyond what is into what could be. Alone is not always lonely. Alone can be sacred. Alone can be revelatory. Alone is often where God shows you what's next. See, when you're around people all the time, it's easy to start seeing yourself through their lens, through their limitations, through their opinions, through their history of who you used to be. But when God calls you to walk alone for a while, it's so he can remove the filter. He wants you to see yourself clearly, not as broken, not as average, not as your past, but as the person he created with purpose, precision, and promise. That's what happened with Moses. Raised in Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by power and privilege, Moses didn't discover who he truly was until he was driven into the wilderness alone. And it was there, in that dry and solitary place, that God appeared to him through a burning bush and revealed the vision for his life. Not in the palace, not in the crowd, not while surrounded by comfort. No, God waited until Moses was alone before he made the vision known, because some visions are too holy to be revealed in noisy places. Some instructions are too specific to be delivered in the presence of people who don't carry your calling. So God will strip the scene, he'll clear the space, and you'll feel like everything and everyone has left you. But the truth is, God was trying to get you alone so he could show you what they couldn't see. There are times when God removes distractions not to hurt you, but to refocus you. You've been so busy reacting to life, running after deadlines, trying to please people, answering every call, meeting every expectation that you haven't had time to see. And when you can't see clearly, you start living aimlessly. You start copying. You start conforming. You start surviving instead of walking in strategy. But God didn't call you to copy, he called you to create. And you can't create with clarity if your vision is clouded. That's why he steps in and says, "Come away, come higher, come deeper, I want to show you something." Because it's in the stillness that revelation is born, it's in the quiet that clarity is formed. Alone time with God is like spiritual lasik. It burns, yes, it may even scare you, But when it's done, you come out seeing sharply. You see your value, you see your patterns, you see your assignment. You see who you need to cut off and who you need to keep close. You see what's a distraction and what's divine. When Elijah was burnt out and hiding in the cave, God didn't show up in the earthquake. He didn't show up in the fire. He didn't show up in the wind. He showed up in a still small voice. And that voice came after Elijah was alone, away from the crowd, exhausted and vulnerable. Alone, he received fresh direction. Alone, he got his next instructions. Alone, his vision was restored. Some of you are in a cave right now, wondering where God is. But what if I told you this cave is your classroom? What if I told you this isolation is your invitation to insight? God didn't forget you. He's preparing to reveal something that can't be seen from the mountaintop, only from the secret place. When you're alone, you have time to reflect, to reassess, to reevaluate what really matters. You start noticing things you never saw before, the way your time is being wasted, the energy you've been pouring into dead places, the doors you keep knocking on that God already closed. And slowly your vision sharpens. You stop seeing with your eyes and start seeing with your spirit. That's when strategy comes. That's when alignment comes. That's when vision becomes execution. Because vision is not just about having a dream, it's about knowing what to do next, how to move, what to drop, what to pursue, and when to act. And here's the beauty of it. When your vision sharpens, so does your peace. You no longer panic at closed doors because you can see the detour is divine. You no longer fear being alone because you see that you're being led. You no longer try to force what's not aligned because your vision has been recalibrated to kingdom focus. So if you're in a season right now where it feels like God has pulled you away from everything familiar, don't fight it. Embrace it. Let it work on you. Let it cleanse your sight. Let it refine your focus. Because when you come out of this, when you emerge from this holy solitude, you won't just walk with vision, you'll walk with precision. Being alone is not the absence of connection, it is the awakening of clarity. And when God sharpens your vision, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop what's next. There is a deception in this world that says if people don't see you, then you must not be doing anything important. That visibility equals value, that if the spotlight isn't shining on you, then you must not be called, you must not be relevant, you must not be progressing. But hear me today, God does his most powerful work in private. The path to purpose is not always loud. It is not always applauded. It is not always posted. Sometimes it's hidden. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's so wrapped in silence that you start to question if you're even moving at all. But let me assure you, just because it's not public doesn't mean it's not purposeful. God is not impressed by performance, he's invested in preparation. He's not moved by how fast you arrive, but by how well you are built when you get there. And that's why he'll lead you down a path that doesn't make sense to others, a path that doesn't look like success, a path paved not with praise but with process, because he's not just giving you a platform, he's giving you the power to sustain it. Think about David. Before he ever held a crown, he held a harp. Before he ever led a nation, he led sheep. Before he ever fought Goliath, he fought lions and bears, and nobody saw it. Nobody posted it. Nobody sang about it. Nobody celebrated it. But it was in those unseen moments that God was preparing him. That was the classroom. That was the training ground. That was the path to purpose, paved in private. You see, we live in a generation obsessed with being seen. We chase platforms, likes, exposure, clout. But God doesn't develop you in the spotlight, he develops you in the shadows. Because the spotlight will always expose what the secret place did not heal. And if you skip the private process, the public stage will crush you. Purpose isn't born on platforms, it's born in obscurity. It's in the hours when nobody is watching that character is forged. It's in the nights of wrestling, in the moments of confusion, in the prayers when there's no answer, that's where purpose is shaped. And when God gets ready to elevate you, you won't need to advertise yourself. Your anointing will announce you, but only after you've been processed in private. Jesus himself modeled this. Before he performed a single miracle, before he healed a single blind man, or walked on water, or fed the 5,000, he spent 30 years in private preparation. 30 years in the shadows, 30 years in silence, and then, when the time was right, when the foundation was laid, he stepped onto the scene and changed the world in just 3 years. But had he skipped the private, the public would have been powerless. So don't despise where you are right now. I know it feels like you're hidden, like you're stuck, like nobody sees the work you're putting in, like your gifts are being wasted. But trust me, what you're walking through now is necessary. God is building your roots. He's preparing your soul. He's teaching you lessons that the next level will demand. And he's doing it away from the noise because it's easier to correct a structure in private than to fix a collapse in public. The problem with skipping the private path is that you arrive unready. You look the part, but you're hollow inside. You say all the right things, but there's no oil behind your words. And the moment adversity hits, you crumble not because you weren't called, but because you weren't conditioned. That's why God delays some things, not to deny you, but to develop you. He's more concerned about your becoming than your arrival. And he knows that a purpose you're not ready for will become a prison, not a platform. So he puts you on the path that nobody sees. And if you trust him there, if you let him stretch you, break you, mold you, you'll come out with something stronger than a name. You'll come out with substance. And substance is what sustains purpose. It's what gives you endurance. It's what keeps you when the applause fades, when the critics rise, when the weight of your calling feels heavier than your ability to carry it. You'll stand not because you're perfect, but because you've been prepared. So while others are chasing the stage, embrace the stillness. While others are rushing to be seen, learn to be still and know. There is something sacred about walking with God in seasons where no one is clapping for you. It is there that your motives are purified, your heart is realigned, and your identity is secured not in what you do, but in who you are in him. And when you come out of that private season, when God finally says, "Now is the time," there will be no door that can stay shut, no voice that can disqualify, no attack that can undo what God built in secret. Because what God does in private, he reveals in power. So hold on, don't rush it. Don't skip it. Don't resent it, because the path to purpose is often paved in private. So I came here to tell somebody today walking alone is not weakness. It's wisdom, it's obedience, it's growth. It's the road God often uses to separate the called from the comfortable, the destined from the distracted, the chosen from the common. When you walk alone, it doesn't mean you've been abandoned, it means you've been appointed. God sets you apart because what he's placed inside you cannot be contaminated by the crowd. He removes the noise so you can recognize his voice. He takes you the long way so he can build you for the weight of your assignment. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's lonely, but it's holy. Every tear you cried in isolation, every night you wrestled in silence, every step you took when no one was clapping, God saw it. God recorded it, and God is going to reward it, because those who walk alone in faith will one day stand before many in purpose. Don't misinterpret this season. Don't think your solitude is your sentence, it's your sanctuary. It's the place where you shed what's not you and discover what is. It's where clarity replaces confusion. It's where strength replaces dependency. It's where identity is confirmed not by the world, but by the Word of God. So keep walking, even if they laugh, even if they leave, even if they don't understand, even if you don't have all the answers, because when you walk with God, even when you walk alone, you're never truly alone. And in due season, he will take what you cultivated in the quiet and reveal it in glory. He will turn your private battles into public victories. He He will take your hidden scars and make them healing stories. Because when God finishes writing your testimony, even your enemies will have to say, "The Lord was with them." So walk on, child of God, head held high, shoulders squared, spirit strong. Walk like you know who sent you. Walk like you know what's in you. Walk like you know who walks beside you, because walking alone is not weak, it's divine, and purpose walks this path.